The same day that Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition came out, Microsoft showcased some in-game footage of Age of Empires 4, the upcoming franchise flagship. As an Age of Empires 2 player, it came as a huge surprise to recognize so much of the stuff in the trailer, so I thought it was going to be interesting to analyze it and see what we can find in it. First off, I let the whole video play, and then we'll take a closer look at some things, as well as some extra footage from a behind the scenes video that they released the day after. Okay, first off, let's stop right here. Our first glimpse of the game reveals a terrain with different elevations, a running horse, and a spinning mill. Already looking quite familiar. The second shot starts revealing a lot more. In this one, we can see water with some basic reflections, a bridge, something that looks like an outpost or a tower, palisades, walls, another mill, even what looks like a castle and a monastery. What's more, it seems to me like there's a lot of decoration, and this already hints the possibility of a scenario editor in the game. The hay, the tents, and even the empty card are all unlikely to be part of user play structures. From the third shot onwards, things become a lot clearer. And for anyone who's played Age of Empires 2, you will see a lot of familiar stuff. From the villagers to what looks like a university, also a castle, a cathedral, farms, another outpost, and that monastery again. There are also several buildings that aren't quite as familiar, and some things such as the two different styling for the houses seem to indicate that there might be many decorative elements in this particular scene as well. In the next one, there seems to be a market, what appears to be pikemen, a monk, a couple of archers, and some knights. Moving on, we can also see a villager carrying wood, as well as two villagers walking together and some guards. The way the villagers move through the city kinda reminds me of other games, such as The Settlers. At first I thought this could be a hint about how eco-development could work, but as we will see in a few minutes, this doesn't seem like it will change much. We'll get back to the city to analyze some stuff in a little bit, but for now it's mostly the same scene from a different angle. Now, wow! I am no history expert and I won't pretend to be one, so I am not 100% sure about these units, but they kind of resemble Mongol or Han units. There is also a few siege towers moving forward, which looking quite good right now, and you can see also that the unit sizes are becoming a lot more accurate. This next one is also a very interesting one because you can see the armies grouped into different legions, and while the animations and the screaming seems to be clearly just part of the promotional video, this could also very well be a hint as to how army mechanics could change, focusing on group control as opposed to single units. In the final shots, you can also now see what seems to be a ram, although it might just be a packed trebuchet, some actual fighting and destruction. In this one in particular, you can see a huge amount of units on screen, which is great, as by the time the first 3D Age titles came out, the hardware just wasn't capable of displaying hundreds of units at once, so this comes at a much better time. That's not all though. Before I talk about the graphics, let's take a little look at what the behind the scenes video has to offer. In this development shot, there is a graphic interface that the developer is using to test the game. He seems to select a packed trebuchet, and then some unit commands appear on screen. This puts some concerns to rest, as it seems you're going to be able to control individual units just fine, thus preserving a part of the AoE core. Although bare bones, you can also see what appears to be resource counters on the left and the minimap. The city he has on screen seems to be the one that they used for the first video, and judging by its size and how it's represented in the minimap, it seems the game will have similarly sized maps to AoE 2. For just a split second, you can see what appears to be a tower with some range indicators. This might just be a development tool, but I hope it's in the game, as it's a thing I wished AoE 2 had for a while already. And speaking of which, subscribe to this channel as I'll have Age of Empires 2 DE videos coming out soon, one of which includes a big list of fixes, changes and feature requests that I have gathered from the community. Back to AoE 4 though, as the next shot shows a bit of the minimap again, with rotate and zoom buttons, and the user interface sketching tool where we can see what appears to be an info feed to the left and several panels to the bottom.
Age of Empires game, so we have a lot of catching up to do. We're doing things that no other RTS game has done before in terms of how units respond to you. They're actually people with voices and character and personality.
I don't know if developing the units to appear more real than ever will be good when seeing them die by the hundreds or having to little villagers, but yeah man, whatever you say. These final shots are different than the ones that we had in the last video, and right here we can see what looks like an outpost, so the other building might have just been a tower. There's definitely more than one type of siege here as well. The first one looks like a ram, and the other ones might be trebuchets. Interestingly enough, in the next shot we can also see what looks like a Dark Age TC, as well as villagers taking sheep. For a split second though, you can also see villagers getting wood back to the same drop-off building. And while this is a departure from having different buildings for different resources for Age of Empires 2 players, it doesn't really seem like a bad thing. In this final shot, we can see the grid for the first time, which is interesting, as the way the walls and the buildings were placed in the demonstration city didn't seem to follow one. So now let's talk graphics a bit. AoE 4 comes at a weird time. While current generation hardware can display hundreds of units at once, detail needs to stay low for the game to be accessible to most people. I think it is safe to assume that the promotional trailer probably looks the best the game can look. That is, this is what the game will look to a person who can max all the settings out. This also means that the game assets actually look less detailed than the pre-rendered sprites on AoE 2 DE. While this is understandable, I think a few things could help a little bit. Or maybe higher quality reflections on the water? Maybe a bit of that sweet ray tracing could help. Additionally, this could be a great game to include environmental effects, which on AoE 2D don't really look as good, but things such as depth of field or basic volumetric fog could make this look a lot more sober. And let's be honest, as it is right now, it kinda looks too bright and cartoony. Brings me some old roller coaster tycoon vibes. Still, having said that, I'm liking what I'm seeing so far in general, and even though the franchise took some heat with the less than ideal releases in the past few years, namely Age of Empires 2 HD, AoE 1 DE and AoE 2 DE, the guys over at Relic Entertainment have a much cleaner track record than the Forgotten Empires guys. And hopefully, they'll commit to the title so that it lives up to the hype. Finally, I like to say that even though there are mixed reactions for what we've seen so far, and mostly everyone seems to agree that this is just like Age of Empires 2 3D, myself included, I find it relieving that they are sticking to older periods of time. Age of Empires 3 was already a big departure from the first two titles, and I'm more of a swords and arrows kind of guy, finding the dominance of gunpowder in AoE 3 a little bit uninspiring. Overall, I'm much more in favor of what they've shown now than I would have been if Age 4 would have been based on World War I or something like that. I'm pretty sure AoE 2's time period, as well as the things that come with it, are in big part responsible for the game still being alive after so long. Most importantly though, what do you think about the trailer and the game? Let me know your opinion in the comments below. This has been Nova, thank you so much for watching and see you next time. Bye bye everyone.